Okay, now I understand that this game is kind of old, but hear me out on this. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, uh, it went on sale the other day for Black Friday, and I figured, I've heard a lot about this game, and so let me try it out. Because if you don't know me, I'm a big fan of Marvel, and I'm a big fan of video games in general. And when I say that this game is so much better than I thought, I mean, I really mean it. I paid $15 for this game, and knowing that, I would have happily paid $70 because this game is worth $70. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm saying that like I like spending money because I absolutely don't. But I am saying that had I had to pay $70, which is what this game was when it first came out a couple years ago, I would have been a-okay doing that just because of how fun this game was to play. Now, obviously, due to the game being, a couple years old back in, well, it came out in 2021, so I didn't make a video on this. I just played it for pure enjoyment, and I gotta say, I kind of wish I had played this game when it first came out. But the real reason I wanted to make this video was kind of to sum up my thoughts about it and kind of compare it to the other Marvel games that have come out in the recent years, mainly Marvel's Avengers, because this is a game made by Square Enix, the same company that made the Marvel's Avengers games. Now, by saying this and making this video, don't get me wrong. Compared to Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man, this is Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby. I mean, this game has nothing on Spider-Man. It never will. But that is also something I have to say about Marvel's Avengers versus this game. When I first bought the Avengers game, I was like, wow, this looks pretty interesting. You can upgrade things, you can do stuff with the characters, and you don't have to just play one character and blah, 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 blah. But I actually found, while playing the Avengers game, I played it co-op with Sound. You've seen him on the channel a couple times if you've watched any of my other videos. But, knowing that this game came from the same company as the Avengers game, it's kind of shocking to see the differences between the two of them. Because in Marvel's Avengers, the stories were, well, not really the stories, the stages were very linear, and outside of, the San Francisco Bridge game tutorial part of the gameplay, every single stage kind of looked and felt the same. And the villains were the same, and the upgrades were the same. Everything was the same after the 4 or 5 times you played it. Now they added in a couple new things with Wakanda and a couple of the other expansions that they did, but overall, it was pretty much the same thing the entire time, all the way through. So to turn around from that game and kind of going into it, I kind of thought that this game was going to be somewhat similar to it. And to get this where the levels are all different and the enemies are all different and, there's actual boss fights and it's, all these other things, and you get to go to these classic locations and even locations you haven't been to before. And then the story itself was, I'll get into the story after this, but I mean, it was just a really well crafted game, and the levels and the gameplay were satisfying. Now, understandably, it took some getting used to with, some of the opponents are kind of damage sponges, and as you'll see in this gameplay, this is kind of the final boss battle because I didn't record anything else besides the final boss battle, but yeah, the final, the getting used to thing is something that I thought that, once you get around the fact that it's not a Spider-Man game and you don't just mash square the entire time, it's an enjoyable experience. Now, one thing I will say about the Avengers game that I really enjoyed was the fact that, you got to pick as which character you played, and I played as Thor, and I think the Thor gameplay in Marvel's Avengers was extremely well done. But other than that, I mean, some of the other characters just kind of felt hollow, and I think that Square Enix should make a Thor game. I think a standalone Thor game would be really well done from them because they got Thor down to a science, at least in my opinion. So that's the one thing. That's the one positive I'll have about the Avengers in regards to comparing it to this game. Now let's talk about the story. The story of the Avengers can kind of be summed up as Kamala. At the time when the Avengers game came out, Kamala Khan was not a really big character. I mean, you know, either you liked her and you knew who she was, or you didn't really know who she was, nor did you care. So deciding to go with Kamala for that Avengers game was pretty, it was a bold move, but I think it was the right move, and I think the story overall, had it not been for the lackluster gameplay, was pretty good. But it was the same Avengers story that we've heard 1,000 times before. Now, not to say the Guardians game was anything different, but I'll get to that in a second. But the Avengers game had the Avengers break up because of something happening in San Francisco, and then Kamala got her powers, and her goal was to bring everybody back together because AIM was doing some nefarious shit, like supervillains do. Guardians, on the other hand, while it takes you to familiar things, and it's a similar thought of, oh, well, the Guardians kind of fucked up again, and ha ha ha, now they gotta fix it. I mean, yeah, kind of, but this is a Guardians team at the very beginning of their, time of their being the Guardians of the Galaxy. And they have to take on the Grand Unifier, and one of Peter Quill's old flames, as child, becomes the kind of figurehead after Adam Warlock goes disappearing. And this whole thing kind of gets kicked off when you, as Peter Quill and Rocket, go into it's called the Quarantine Zone, and you're not supposed to go in there, and you find the Soul Stone, and kind of or maybe it's the Mind Stone, Soul Stone, one of the two, doesn't matter, an Infinity Stone, and you kind of touch it, and then this scary thing called the Promise comes out, and it infects the mind of Nikki, which is the girl that it infects, and kills your, I guess your love interest for at least the game, and she dies early on in the game. Now, while the story seems pretty similar to every other Guardians story you've ever heard, I don't think I've ever seen, at least in mainstream media, we haven't had a Guardians versus the Grand Unifier kind of storyline, and that may be because, they didn't know how to do it well, or they just didn't know it existed. It may be a completely new concept that the developers of the game came up with, and that could be one reason that they went the route that they did. But I think that the storyline was very entertaining, and I was gripped and couldn't wait to get back on and play this game, even though I've got other games out right now. And after going from Spider-Man and kind of playing that for a long time, and then I get this game, and it's like, wow, this is something completely different and in some ways unique. As you can see with the system here, it's just it was a very fun game to play, and I really, really enjoyed it. Another thing I'll say is that at first I thought that you were going to be able to play as the other Guardians instead of just Peter Quill, and I found out very quickly that that was not the case. Now, am I disappointed by this? In a way, yeah. I think you can, if Square Enix is to make this game a sequel, which I very much think they should. I know that the early returns on the game weren't everything they thought, but I went on their Twitter page the other day, and it said that they had over 8 million copies sold, so maybe something changed in the recent past. But I think being able to make this a game where you can play as Drax, which is maybe a like a brute kind of tank kind of character, and then Gamora, who's a melee expert. Peter Quill is a long range expert, rockets, explosives, and then Groot is your kind of support character. I think could work really well for this game, but I don't think that they need to do it. I would like that to happen, but I think what we got is just as good, if not better, than that option. But overall, I just think the experience with this game was really, really fun, and I really enjoyed it from start to finish, and I couldn't wait to get on the game every day. And the Huddle experience makes the game 10 times more fun because it really encapsulates the Guardians feel. And I don't want this to sound like it makes you really feel like Batman or Spider-Man, but you get that sense of a team here at the end of the game with the Huddle feature. So if you're going to spend $15 on a game, this is what I do. I think that This game is, one of those games that flew under the radar and kind of didn't really meet their goals as far as Square Enix was concerned, but I think that that's because the Avengers game kind of scared them. And it kind of, worried them because the projections weren't, the Avengers game didn't do as well as they thought it would. And then they come out with another team up game and it does, even better than I think people originally thought. And 8 million copies is nothing to sneeze at. It's very good for a game like this. I know the Guardians aren't as niche as they used to be, but it's still a more niche group than the Avengers, especially when you threw in Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. All the classic Avengers in the Avengers game, and then you get the Guardians, which is not that. And I just think overall the storytelling and the direction of the game was so much better than the Avengers. And I wish I could play this experience again. I wish I had recorded my reactions to it because, I thought it was really, really well done. Now, that's not to say that I hated the Avengers game. It was okay, but, what I mean is that this is what the Avengers game should have been. And I wish that Square Enix would hurry up on Tomb Raider, get it out, finish it up, so we can get a sequel to this game. Because I think it's deserved, and I think the storyline is very good, and there's so many possibilities with this team that you can do, and so many stories that you can tell, and build this whole universe around it, kind of like Spider-Man's doing, and be completely fine. I think you iron up some things from this game and keep it for the most part the way it was, and I think you've got a surefire hit, on your plate here as far as the game's concerned. And I implore you, if you haven't yet played this game, you've got $15 to spend on this. I think it was, I sound like a broken record, but I think the game was really well done. I think if you're worried that this is going to be the same thing as the Avengers, I wouldn't worry about it, because it's not. And if you like Guardians of the Galaxy, you get some ship combat in here too. I mean, it overall is a full and complete game. There's some minor things to it that you need to look past, but overall, I think that this game is very fun and very, very well done. And if there's not really so many negatives about the game, I think the biggest negative for me comes with the bullet sponges and the fact that it feels like sometimes you're not doing any damage. But for some of the characters and some of the enemy types, I mean, you just, at the end of the game, you kind of just run right through them, and it's, kind of one of those things. It's like, oh, I can't believe I killed him already, so that's what I'd say about this game. And I think you should go and play it. So without sounding like too much of a broken record at this point, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like me to go back through and play this game and record my commentary, I'm more than willing to do so on New Game Plus. But otherwise, this is going to probably be the only Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy content you get, unless a sequel is released. So anyways, thank you so much for watching again. Please remember to like and subscribe. I appreciate it, and I will talk to you all later. Peace.